Welcome, listeners, to another exciting episode of Inner Peace, Better Health. I'm your host, Sana, and today we have a fascinating guest with us, Gabe Dough, the founder of Good BRU. Now, listeners, Gabe is a pioneer in the field of gut health and wellness. And he's here today to share his insights on the gut brain axis and the profound impact of our gut health has on our overall well being. So, everyone, get ready for an enlightening, informative conversation that will inspire you to take charge of your health in new and exciting ways. So, Gabe, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor having you with us today.
Thank you, Sana. It's a pleasure being on your show. And the gut-brain axis is so critical to everything. So I think we'll have a great conversation. I mean, I like to think of it as a fundamental part of health. It's just like exercise or sleep or those types of things. Your gut health is that fundamental to your overall health. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Definitely, definitely. So, we'll start off with understanding what exactly is gut brain axis and why is it so crucial for our overall health?
Well, I think, when you say gut-brain axis, what people are looking for one specific thing, and it's really quite complicated. Your gut has next to the brain, next to the central nervous system, it has the highest concentration of nerves in our body. And a lot of times we call the gut the second brain. And so the gut-brain axis incorporates a lot because it's not only just the connection, the nervous system that's between the gut and the brain, but then it also incorporates all the other activities that are going on in the gut. So there's many aspects of it, but fundamentally it's a acknowledgement of the connection that and the influence it has on our our overall nervous system, the connection between the gut and the brain. And there's a vagus nerve, which I'm sure your listeners know about. I'm sure you speak about that a lot. This is a very critical nerve that runs through the body, but it particularly is essential in connecting and transmitting information between the gut and the brain. And it has, and more so, there's more and more data, more and more information on how critical that connection is. And I mean, we're start to get into things like dementia and cognitive decline as being part of this, and then also just our everyday mood, or our ability to think, our working memory, our immune system, and a lot of these also like cognitive disease types of things. They look more and more like they're also connected to the immune function, which is then also connected to the nervous system. So it's kind of this intricate this intricate connection between the gut and the brain that doesn't just stop at the nervous system. And I know when I was young and growing up, mostly in school, we didn't talk about the gut as being its own branch of the nervous system. But nowadays, if you really look at where science is going, we speak about the enteric nervous system as separate from the peripheral nervous system. So there's the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system, and that's typically what most of us learned about. But now, I mean, there were people who recognized the enteric nervous system, the nervous system that's within the gut, but it wasn't really prominent in teaching. And now it pretty much is. I mean, you can't ignore the importance of that. And so depending on, this also gets into the breath work and all of those kinds of things. And particularly of interest to me is the gut microbiome. So the microbes in our gut play a major role in the metabolites and whatnot that are produced in our gut, which then affects the nervous system, which then affects the brain and our mental health. So like 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut, for example. And then many other neurotransmitters are impacted by gut health are either produced in the gut, or the metabolites that are produced in the gut um, allow our cells to be healthy, which then also impact the ability of our brain to produce healthy neurotransmitters and that sort of thing. So this is into everything from your the gut microbiome to the food that we eat, to exercise, to breath, to um, dysbiosis, to the immune function, to getting sick and then healing, to things like using antibiotics and what they do to deplete our gut microbiome, both in the short term, but then also from generation to generation. So as we've used antibiotics through generations, we've overall society has depleted our microbiomes. The diversity of our microbiomes are less today than they were a generation ago and a generation before that. And that in and of itself has a lot to do with how we how how we then interact with other medications and those sorts of things, but also in how we are resilient mentally, based on what's supposed to be happening in the gut. So, for example, short chain fatty acids. Short chain fatty acids are these critical metabolites that are produced mostly by the gut microbiome, a healthy gut microbiome that then allows our cells to function properly, and they supply most of the energy needed for a healthy gut as these short chain fatty acids. And when our gut microbiome is not functioning properly, or we have a dysbiosis or a depleted microbiome, which most people unfortunately do in the Western world today, do have dysbiosis of some sort, unfortunately, then that affects their ability for the gut microbiome to produce the energy sources necessary for a healthy gut. And so then we end up with a lot of gut health problems, IBS and all sorts of things, Crohn's disease and this, and also just unhealthy mucosal lining of the gut as well, which then gets into allowing for autoimmune responses and leaky gut. So things, toxins or just nutrients even that's supposed to stay within the gut starts to escape the gut, and then your body fights back against that, and you have an immune response which creates inflammation, which then also creates, again, another mental, it begins to affect the nervous system. So it's a constant back and forth. And we even know that it works the other way too. So we know that as we heal our mind, say through meditation and mindfulness practices, and we have a calmer and less anxious mind, the gut microbiome will actually respond to that, and it helps with having a healthier gut and a healthier microbiome. So it's actually a two-way street with that. It's not just one directional, but really, it's really, we're fighting an uphill battle because of so much that we've done with modern food, with medication, overuse of different kinds of medications, or just the fortunate benefits of the medications, but they do have side effects. And I would also say that some of these interactions get very, like, they get quite complicated because, for example, there was a paper, I was just reading it just last week. And so there's a microbe that's in our gut. I can't think of the name of that specific microbe, but anyhow, this microbe is pretty common in a large percentage of the population. And the microbe has a specific metabolite that it does produce. However, what they were finding is this connection between this microbe and depression. So people who had depression tended to have higher concentrations of this microbe, but they couldn't find the correlation that the microbe itself was causal. What they found though was when the microbe was in the presence of a very common additive to food called DEA, and it's that microbe was then interacting with this ingredient that's widely found in many different products. It's found in cosmetics. I think it might be found in food products as well, but it's found in many things that we put on and in the body. It's called DEA. You can see it. That microbe was then metabolizing that chemical to produce a metabolite that the microbe typically wouldn't produce. So it was producing a metabolite only because it was being exposed to this other ingredient that was in being introduced into our system as a compound found in many different consumer products. And that metabolite, they think, was responsible for some of these depressive symptoms in people. Now, that's not everybody, but that's just one example of how complicated it gets, and it's also how impactful it is. They've also done many studies with, say, autistic
Mhm.
children and the importance of a healthy gut microbiome with autism. So they found quite a few. So there's been quite a few studies that have shown a healthier gut microbiome helps to reduce anxiety and some autistic symptoms in many autistic children. They can also see that autistic children tend to have a less diverse microbiome. As we
Mhm.
age, for example, our microbiome becomes less diverse. And they found that people who age have a healthier aging process, who are healthy and have a healthy health span going later into life, they tend to have more diverse gut microbiomes and more diverse gut microbiomes with the right type of microbes. And so um, if you think about just when you get hungry, when people get hungry, they tend to get angry, right? And so that's a very normal response from the gut to the brain, but it just shows you one very it's a good example that we all experience, that of that connection between the gut and the brain. But when you get sick, you get feeling off in the head. If you get tired, and you start feeling down, you might eat junk food, and then you have sugar rushes and things like that. So there's really kind of simple, easy to see connections between the gut and the brain, but there's also much deeper uh overall holistic aspects to it as well.
Mhm. Seems like you have gone multiple layers deep into this entire, although complex, but really, really amazing dynamic between the gut and brain. And I think there have been researches that having a healthy gut brain equation, it can actually maybe um, help in maybe diminishing or preventing Parkinson's disease. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm just quoting it from one of the articles in one of our
Yes,
newspapers.
you're absolutely right. That's been one years ago. There was I can't think of his name, but there was a researcher who it was well known that people with Parkinson's disease and to some extent with other forms of dementia, but with
Mhm.
Parkinson's disease specifically, it's been shown that there's this high correlation between gut health, gut problems, particularly constipation, things like that, and onset of Parkinson's. And it's kind of seen in people's lives well before they start showing symptoms of Parkinson's disease. And so this researcher, I think he was back in the 70s, maybe, he made this correlation and he started saying, I think that, we need to be looking at this with more closely as potential connection between why people are getting Parkinson's, at least some forms of Parkinson's disease. And he had different theories on what might be happening in the gut that then might be connected to the brain, but nobody took him very seriously. I mean, he was a respected doctor, but they didn't really take that theory too seriously. So there was all these other things. But now it's probably safe to say that the leading theory behind what causes Parkinson's disease as is in some way related to what's happening in the gut. So it's not so most of what you will read today will acknowledge that there's something between the gut and the brain that is at least the cause of a large percentage of Parkinson's disease. And more recently, which is probably what you were reading, there was a
Mhm.
there was some very good research done on uh, certain Yeah, certain. It's iron. One of them has to do with iron. So this is kind of interesting. So the gut microbiome is essential for processing the nutrients out of our food. And so
Mhm.
it doesn't, I mean, protein. So our product, Good BRU, which is spelled BRU, Good BRU, is a
Mhm.
very simple product with a probiotic and organic inulin fiber that uh, works very well. It's organic. You can put it in a hot tea or coffee, but it survives it survives in coffee because it's a spore form, and it survives through the stomach acid because it's in a spore form, and then it blooms in the gut. And so it's well researched and well studied. But having something to help balance your gut microbiome and bring your gut microbiome into balance, one uh, these soluble fibers and probiotics help support the other microbes, the other healthy microbes in your stomach. And once you start to shift the gut health towards a positive direction, now you start to fight off the negative gut bacteria. So with Parkinson's, one of the things that was being shown is that people with Parkinson's and having dysbiosis, their microbes weren't able to what they think were not able to metabolize iron out of the diet. And so and that's where the connection with the Parkinson's is starting to be. They were starting to look like there's a connection. So that also has to do with B vitamins. So it's not just, it's still more complicated because the gut microbiome has a lot to do with how we produce B vitamins. And so the gut microbes either help to digest the food properly to release the B vitamins, or they actually produce B vitamins as a metabolite themselves. And so those B vitamins have, they're what gives a lot of energy to our cells. It allows our cells to function properly. And so in combination with that, the cells weren't, or we weren't uptake. The people with Parkinson's disease, they think, are not able to uptake iron properly. And so the gut microbiome is important to the B vitamins, which then help with the metabolism of iron. But then they're also important with the extracting the iron from the food. And then there's different ions of iron too. And so this depletion of iron that was being associated with Parkinson's disease, which is also was associated with lower levels of B vitamins. And so the brain metabolism, the brain cells were not functioning properly, this is the theory, and therefore starting to create, die or create plaques or have inflammation in the brain that was then impeding the health of the brain. So it's related. It's a real kind of a little bit complicated, but that's how it relates back to the microbiome and the gut. Was that at least in that paper, it was the connection between the B vitamins, the iron metabolism, and then the cellular metabolism within the brain being depleted from that. That's how I recall it, anyways. Yeah. So
That's quite deep. Also, Gabe, what's the story behind Good Brew? How you became interested in the connection between gut health and mental well-being.
yeah, well, it was many years ago. So when I first, I just okay. So I have a background in food technology, and I have some back just I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm an entrepreneur that has a science and research kind of background focus. And so many years ago, I had just been kind of reading about gut health and probiotics, and I was very intrigued by what people were saying. And it was at that time, I mean, there were plenty of people who were starting to get on board with the importance of gut health, but it was still pretty new. And I was at a Institute of Food Technologists trade show, and there was a company that had developed this strain of Bacillus coagulans. So Bacillus coagulans are a very common and well-studied probiotic. They were discovered a long time ago. They were one of the earlier discovered gut microbes, but they're the spore-forming gut microbe and they don't colonize the gut; they pass through the gut. So we often could get Bacillus coagulans naturally in our diet through different fermented foods, but they pass through. So they're a spore. They go into the stomach as a spore, and then they get into the lower intestines, which most probiotics don't transition the stomach. So many probiotics that we take, unfortunately, don't really survive our stomach, and we really end up not getting the benefits from them. But Bacillus coagulans does, and when it gets into the lower intestines, it blooms, and it does a lot of wonderful things, and it helps support the other healthy microbes in the gut as well. And it's been shown and researched to support protein utilization, increasing the uptake of protein by like 16%, which is very important for people of all aspects of life, from older people who need who have a harder time getting protein from their diet, to people who are exercising, who want better muscle recovery, to people who eat lower protein diets. This is very, very important. So it's been shown also to have a very positive impact on immune health, and of course on digestive health. So you end up with people benefiting with very short-term benefits, like just like kind of short-term, like almost sometimes we have people who say like after a day it's helped them with something, a lot of times with things related to constipation and stuff like that, to these longer term benefits to a healthier gut, and mental health and mood and or better overall health, which then affects our mood and that sort of thing. But these guys had developed a strain of Bacillus coagulans, and I thought it was super interesting because it survived, and it would survive in different through on the shelf. It would survive in hot beverages, and it would survive through the gut. And that was one of the things that I had been aware of when reading about probiotics, was that the survivability of them was really not that great. And that's oftentimes why they have so large CFUs on these products that you buy, because they're trying to get some of them to survive and make it through the stomach, or for them to survive on the shelf. But I was reading or learned about this product that this one company had developed called, Bacillus coagulans. It was GBI 30 is the strain. But at the same time, I learned about organic agave inulin. So around the same time, agave inulin wasn't really being used or marketed, and I met some people who were trying to bring that to market as it's made, when they make tequila, they use the agave plant, and then they have the fiber and stuff left over. And so it looked like a very interesting fiber because it's organic, it's soluble, and it would make a great prebiotic for the probiotics. The probiotics need to feed on something, and so they feed on this fiber. So as an entrepreneur, I just started thinking to myself that, wow, wouldn't it be so nice if people could have a probiotic that actually survived and was effective, and then they could use it. People could use it in a way that would fit into their normal daily routine. And with that, these fibers, most of the fibers that the big companies sell, they're not organic fibers. They're not even really the natural kinds of fibers that our gut would normally have in it for feeding the microbes. And also those fibers a lot of times are even made from like wheat. So there is some chance that if you have a wheat or a gluten intolerance and you're taking a fiber, that most of them are made by these big pharmaceutical companies, that you may actually be making your gut condition worse. So I just kind of, as an entrepreneur, said these two ingredients would be so perfect together, because people could just put it into their daily routine. They could just mix it into their tea or their coffee, and every day, and it would work, and they would get the benefits, both of the prebiotic fiber and the probiotic, and it would just be something that would just help people every day, and it would fit so neatly into their routine, and then it would be kind of a foundational product. And we worked on something at first many years ago, and we couldn't make it. It was just too hard to make, and so I had to take a break from that while I worked on other things. And then we came back to making Good BRU, more recently in the last couple of years, and we're already getting just really great feedback from customers, people thanking us, and we've seen it from. I mean, we have some people say, "Oh, they've seen improvements in their skin," and then we have people saying, "Oh, it just helped me with something." I mean, we have people who have said they've been to the doctor many times, who've struggled with certain digestive health issues for 20 years, and then within like a week of Good Brew, they're they're feeling better, and it's been the one thing that's worked for them that when nothing else has. And so we're hearing all kinds of feedback like that. I mean, people also feel like they, after a little bit longer term use of it, starting to feel less like muscle soreness and that sort of thing, which goes right along with the research that's been done on Bacillus coagulans. And then the fiber itself, even just fiber alone, has a lot to do with our gut health and in the metabolites that are produced in the gut, the short chain fatty acids, which then affect a mood and that sort of thing. So the two of those combined, there's two simple ingredients combined, with no preservatives, no manufacturing aids, can do wonders for setting the gut up for a healthy for a healthy change in your gut and rebalancing the gut. And then if you're take any other probiotics or anything else you're taking, they're going to benefit from that as well, because it's going to give a higher probability that those other probiotics and things that you're getting into your diet are going to survive. And so that's really important. We also have a lot of people say it helps them with like acid reflux and things like that too, which makes sense, because if you're helping to heal the gut lining, you could benefit in that way also, So yeah. So it's just being an entrepreneur and looking for opportunities and having an interest in a certain area.
Yeah.
Sana?
Thank you.
Yeah.
For that explanation, and really very inspiring. So if our listeners would wish to connect with you, how they can do that?
Yeah, the simplest way is to go to our website. You just need to remember that brew is spelled BRU. So good, GOOD, BRU.com. Good BRU. And they can order the product online, and they could or send me an email, or you use the info form if they've got certain questions, and or we'll get back to them. But that's the easiest way. Yeah, just go to the website, goodbru.com, BRU, goodbru.com.
Lovely. We'll have all the details mentioned in the show notes. And thank you so much, Gabe, for this conversation. I think your wisdom and insights have been truly enlightening. To all of our listeners, I encourage you to explore Gabe's work further, whether it's through his company, Good Brew, or his various wellness initiatives. So thank you so much, Gabe.
Yes, thank you, Sana. And it was so nice to speak with you. And yeah, your work is in a very important area, mental health and mindfulness and being grateful for every day. And whether you're an entrepreneur or whatever you do, it's important, and it's holistic. You got to take care of everything. It's not just one. You take care of your gut, take care of your brain, take care of your brain, take care of your gut, exercise, eat well. It's everything.
Absolutely. So, to all of our listeners, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep nurturing your body, mind, and soul. Until next time on Inner Peace, Better Health, take care. Thank you.